Hi, Dr. Simeon Roger here, and welcome to the video series 18 Things That Peak Performing People Do Differently Than You Do. Peak performing people avoid ideology like the plague. Yes, they avoid ideology like the plague. What does that mean? Well, they're out to preserve their intellectual and emotional integrity. So, what is ideology? Ideology is a worldview. A worldview that's been grossly oversimplified. So you have political ideologies like Marxism, for example, that reduces everything in life to economic competition between classes of people. You have religious ideologies like radical Islam that reduces everything in life to religious competition. You have even scientific ideology. You can have a scientific ideology, believe it or not. As objective as science is supposed to be, it isn't always that way. Think back to the biology of the 1950s when what was discovered? DNA. DNA was discovered, and when that happened, there were prominent biologists who proudly proclaimed what they refer to as the central dogma of all biology, which is DNA determines everything. Your DNA is written in stone, you cannot do anything about it, and your entire life is set out for you in that DNA code. Now, scientifically, we all know now that that is complete garbage from a scientific perspective. It's been completely disproven. Nevertheless, it was actually believed by an awful lot of people, believed by a medical establishment that swallowed it wholeheartedly, which is why your medical establishment back in the day never talked about nutrition, never talked about stress, never talked about 100 other things, because they assumed everything was written in DNA. So this is what an ideology is. An ideology is always a gross oversimplification of reality. And it can be a modern ideology like woke ideology that reduces everything to the oppressor and the oppressed. It can be neoliberal economics, trickle-down economics on the right of the political spectrum, which believes that somehow the free market will give you optimal social results, optimal results for society in sociological terms. Now the data for that's in, it's complete garbage too. You see, every time that we as humans try to reduce reality to things we can understand in a very simple way, reality basically kicks us in the butt and says, I'm not that simple. However, having an ideology makes us feel in control. If we can process something like the complexity of the world around us or part of that reality, whether it's a political part or an economic part or any other part, if we can process that in very simple terms, then that makes us feel in control, makes us feel better about ourselves. But there's a big problem. Again, it's all reductionist, it's all grossly oversimplified, and therefore it's actually wrong. So how do you know if you've been captured by an ideology? Well, as we used to say in theology, if your God hates all the same people you do, you could have a problem. And yeah, that's exactly it, because when you've been captured by an ideology, typically your group is right, anybody else is wrong, if not the enemy, if not actually, evil, demonic, and demented, not to mention stupid. So there's this tendency to demonize those of any other camp when you're captured by an ideology. You're no longer capable of rational discussion. The whole narrative in the ideological camp typically becomes emotionally based, and it's pretty thin on facts. And when facts are presented, often they've been cherry-picked to fit that narrative. And if they haven't been cherry-picked, they've just been invented. So they're fictitious. This is the way that these types of groups go. So ideologies automatically form cohesive groups of people, believers, and true believers are very dangerous people. So these types of people, then, as we've said, you demonize people on the outside, but you also can begin to love conspiracy theories. You start twisting facts to fit the narrative. You have all of this, and often you have a single charismatic leader. Not always. Your leader could be a person, it could be a text, it could be a central idea, whatever that is. So if any of this fits you, you've been captured by an ideology. Ask yourself those questions. What do I actually believe in, and how strongly do I believe in it? And how do I see people who don't believe what I believe? How strongly am I demonizing those people, or am I willing to tolerate narratives that do? All of this describes a person who has been essentially captured by an ideology. And if you've been captured by an ideology, why should you care? Well, simply put, you've relinquished your central responsibility as a human being to be able to think clearly about your life and the world around you and process that in a meaningful way, while being open to the fact and humble enough to realize we humans actually don't know that much yet. We really don't understand what's going on around us. We don't understand the universe totally. None of us have all the facts at any given time. So these are really important reasons why it's important to avoid ideology like the plague and help other people to avoid it too. This has been another episode of 18 Things Peak Performing People Do Differently Than You Do. And if you like this content, watch for more. We have more coming up. That's it for now. Take care.